Are you feeling overwhelmed and stressed? Imagine unwinding with a brush and creating beautiful ocean scenes that soothe your soul. In this video, you will discover how mindful painting for stress can transform your evenings into peaceful escapes, bringing you a sense of calm and refreshment, even if you have never painted before. Welcome back to my channel. This is Deepika, and I'm here to help you slow down, release stress, and reconnect with yourself using watercolor techniques. Before we begin painting, I want you to think, when was the last time you did something without trying to finish it quickly? By not checking the time, not thinking about the next task, not trying to be productive, just doing one thing. That is what I want this painting session to be. Today, we are going to paint an ocean scene, but this isn't really about learning how to paint. It's about using the process of painting to create a slower rhythm for ourselves. I chose an ocean scene because there is something naturally repetitive about the way we see water. The horizon stays relatively still. The waves move across it. Some waves are stronger, some are barely visible, and they keep arriving one after the other. And there's no need for ocean to rush the next wave. I think that's a useful image for us when life starts becoming very fast. We don't have to solve the entire day in one moment. We can simply stay with the thing that is in front of us. So, for the next 40 minutes, I would like you to treat this as a little interruption to your normal routine. If you are painting along, keep your phone away and distractions away if possible. If you are watching first, that's completely fine. You can simply listen to the music and watch the process. And if you do paint along with me, don't worry about making yours look exactly like mine. Your water will move differently, your paper will absorb pigments differently, and your brush pressure will be different. And that's the part of watercolor. So today, we are going to work with that rather than fight it. You don't need a large collection of supplies for this. I'm working with cartridge sketchbook, watercolor paints, clean water, and a few round brushes. I'll be using larger brush for the waves and broader marks and smaller brush when I need finer details. You will also want some tissue or cloth nearby, and most importantly, give yourself enough room to move your paper. Before touching the paper, just take one comfortable breath. No special technique. Simply breathe in and slowly breathe out. And let your shoulders settle. I'm going to start by preparing my sheet. And I'm going to keep this part very simple. First, I'm marking where I want my horizon to be. This gives me a basic structure to work with. Then I'm loosely indicating the boulders. I'm not drawing them in detail. At this stage, I only need to know roughly where the larger shapes are going to sit. And this is something I like about starting with a very simple structure. It gives the mind just enough direction without taking away the freedom to explore. You don't need to know every detail of your final painting. You don't need to know what comes next. That's quite a useful way to approach a painting. And sometimes it's useful outside painting too. When everything feels like too much, Instead of asking, how am I going to deal with everything? Try asking, what is the next small thing? For us right now, it's simply the sky. That's it. One small area, one brush, one wash. I'm starting from one side of the sky. I'm laying down the color gently and allowing it to travel across the paper. And now I'm going to tilt the sheet slightly. Watch how the water and pigment begin to cooperate. The color moves toward the other side. I don't have to paint every centimeter manually. The water is helping me, and I really like this part of watercolor because it reminds me that painting isn't always about making things happen. Sometimes it's about setting something in motion and then giving it room. So while this color is moving, just watch it. You don't need to analyze what I'm doing. Look at the soft transition. Look at where the pigment becomes lighter. Look at where the water creates its own variations. This is your first opportunity to slow your attention down. Now, I'm moving towards the boulders. I'm starting with a lighter base color. I am not worrying about the darker areas yet. At this stage, I'm just establishing the basic shape and temperature of the rocks. This is another useful principle for mindful painting. Don't ask the first layer to do the job of the last layer. The first layer only needs to be the first layer. We can build on it. We can change it. We can deepen it. And we can correct things later. So if your painting looks very simple at this point, that's completely normal. Let it be simple. We don't need to immediately make everything interesting. Now I am moving into the ocean. I am beginning with darker tones close to the horizon. Then, as I move towards the foreground, I am gradually allowing the colors to become lighter. This creates a feeling of distance. And I want you to notice how different the movement of these strokes feels compared with the sky. The sky was more about letting the pigment travel. Here, I am becoming more deliberate. Horizontal movement. One stroke beside another. The rhythm starts becoming quite repetitive. And that's exactly what I want. Because repetitive movements can make painting feel less mentally demanding. You're not making a completely new decision every stroke. You are establishing a rhythm. Dark, light, long, short, pause and continue. And gradually the ocean begins to appear. I am now going to start bringing more definition into the boulders. I'll introduce some dark shades. And this is where the painting starts becoming more interesting. But I want you to notice something. I'm not trying to make the rocks perfectly realistic. I'm looking for the impression of rocks. A dark area here, a warmer patch there, a little lighter edge, and some broken marks. And that is enough to make the brain read the shape. This is something that can be quite freeing when working with watercolors. You don't need to describe everything. You can suggest it. A few marks can communicate much more than we sometimes expect. And this is also where I want you to practice something very deliberately. Leave some things alone. If one area already looks good, you don't always need to improve it. If the water created an interesting shape, let it stay. If a brush stroke isn't perfect but somehow works, don't immediately correct it. There's a difference between finishing a painting and constantly interfering with it. Sometimes the most mindful decision you can make is to stop touching an area. I'm bringing the beach into the painting. Again, I'm keeping the first layer relatively simple. I'm establishing the sandy area and allowing it to connect naturally with the water. And as I do this, notice how the whole scene is beginning to slow down visually. We have a large sky, a wide horizon, a broad ocean, a quiet beach, and a few strong rocks. There's not much visual clutter. That's one reason I enjoy painting scenes like this. The composition itself gives us somewhere quiet to look. And from here, I'm going to let you simply watch and paint with me. I'm going to speak much less now. This next section is intentionally quieter. You can put your attention on the painting. If you are painting along with me, you can pause whenever you need. There is no need to match my speed. Let your own painting take time it needs. For the next few minutes, notice three things: the movement of the brush, the sound around you, and the colors appearing on the paper. That's all. I'll leave you with the music now. slow your brush down. You don't need to correct every mark. Leave some space for the painting to breathe. Now we are entering the final stage. And I want to keep this part quiet too. This is where I'm looking at the painting as a whole rather than concentrating on one individual area. I'm checking the boulders, the beach, the ocean, the horizon, and the overall balance. I'm adding a few small stones on the sand, some additional texture on the rocks. And now the white foam becomes more visible. These small white marks are more important because they bring the movement of water forward. But again, I'm not going to put foam everywhere. If everything is highlighted, nothing feels highlighted. So I'm choosing a few areas and leaving other areas quiet. And this is where I usually notice something interesting. At the beginning of the painting, I was thinking about the painting. Now, after spending all this time making these small decisions, I'm simply looking at it. The process has changed, my attention has changed, and that's really what I wanted from this session. Not just an ocean painting, but a slower pace, a quieter mind, a little distance from everything else happening around me. When you look at your painting now, don't immediately ask yourself whether it's good. Instead, ask yourself, how do I feel compared with when I started? That's the part I'm most interested in. Because the value of a mindful painting session isn't only contained in the finished artwork. It's also in the 40 minutes you spent getting there. You slowed your movements down. You paid attention to color. You watched water travel across paper. You repeated simple brushstrokes. You made decisions. You allowed some unexpected things to remain. And you stayed with the process long enough to see the scene develop. That's a very different experience from quickly producing something and moving on. And you don't need to wait until you're extremely stressed to do this. You could make it part of your routine. Maybe 10 minutes before work. Maybe during an afternoon break. Maybe after you come home. Maybe once or twice a week when you want some uninterrupted time with yourself. You don't even need to finish a painting. You could simply paint the sky, or practice waves, or create a few washes. The important part is giving yourself a period where your attention has somewhere gentle to settle. And I think that's what mindful painting can offer. It gives us a reason to slow our hands down. And when our hands slow down, sometimes our attention follows. Today, we started with a blank sheet. We created the horizon. We allowed the sky to move. We built the ocean gradually. We shaped the rocks. We brought the beach forward. We added wave after wave. And eventually, this entire scene appeared. But the most valuable part wasn't necessary, but the most valuable part wasn't necessarily the final image. It was everything that happened between the blank paper and this moment. So, if you have been feeling mentally overloaded lately, perhaps don't wait for the perfect free afternoon. Take a small piece of paper, take a brush, give yourself 15 minutes, and paint slowly. No pressure to impress anyone, no pressure to post it, no pressure to make it perfect. Just give your attention to one small thing at a time. And if you enjoyed spending these 40 minutes painting with me, I would love for you to subscribe. I'm creating more watercolor sessions like this specifically for those moments when you want to slow down, step away from the rush of the day, and spend some quiet time creating. And if you painted along today, tell me in the comments what part of the process helped you slow down the most. The sky, the waves, the rocks, or the final details. I would genuinely love to know. Thank you for spending this time here. Take a moment before you leave. Look at your painting, take one slow breath, and let yourself enjoy the fact that you gave yourself this time. I'll see you in the next painting session.